I think the genius of the Labour Party over the last 10 years is that we have produced a new synthesis of those who rightly argued for a stronger state, but those who also said that you can't simply have public services on the old model.
That's my point. This synthesis is falling apart. We've got the European election results. We're going to have the Parliamentary Labour Party back on Monday. We've got the Norfolk North by-election coming up sometime, and you've got rows like the Royal Mail, all of which expose your faults.
The unity of the party is still strong, and as you've seen from the reshaping of the cabinet in the last 2 days, all of the key figures in the party are solidly behind Gordon Brown.
Except the ones who've walked out of cabinet, for example.
And of course what we're now focused on are the three big challenges that we face, which are very significant challenges. Sorting out the expenses issue once and for all, which has brought discredit on all of the political parties, continuing to restore confidence to the economy, and showing a renewed confidence in modernising the public services.
Lord Adonis, thank you very much.
In a moment, we'll hear from the former Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Roy Hattersley, Lord Hattersley, the former Lib Dem leader, Charles Kennedy, and the Conservative Treasury spokeswoman, Justine Greening. But let's hear from Michael Crick first. Where is this revolt tonight, if anywhere?
Well, I think there's a sense both in Downing Street and amongst the rebel leaders, if you can call them that it's not got the momentum that it needs to have if it's going to have an effect. The MPs are not coming out in the numbers the new names are not coming out in the numbers denouncing Brown at the level that one would expect for it to get up to sort of the 70, 80, 100 mark in terms of names. They lack numbers, particularly on the left, I think. And it's interesting that John Cruddas' article in the Sunday Mirror tomorrow reflects, I think, the view of many on the left that there isn't any point in getting rid of Gordon Brown and replacing him with somebody else unless there is a change in direction in policy, and that's why these rebel attempts haven't gained support on the left. There's also been particular pressure, I think, on rebel leaders through their constituency parties and by this line from government ministers that if Brown goes, that will mean an election and you're likely to lose your seats.
And briefly, there's some story about Lord Mandelson emails in the News of the World tomorrow.
That's right. An email from January 2008, long before Lord Mandelson joined the government, whereby he's meant to have written to Derek Draper, suggesting that voters were put off Gordon Brown because they thought he was angry that he was too preoccupied with celebrity gimmicks and so on.
OK, thanks very much. And Lord Hattersley joins us now from our Sheffield studio. Lord Hattersley, I just wondered where you think the party is tonight. We heard from Lord Adonis, it's fundamentally united with a clear agenda. Do you think so?
Well, I agree with almost everything that Adonis said. We've had many arguments in the past over education, but I think tonight he was right in almost every particular, perhaps literally in every particular. Paradoxically, I think, as things are now moving, Gordon Brown will be more his own man by the end of next week than he was, say, a fortnight ago. If the revolt fizzles out on Monday, as I believe it will, then Gordon Brown is, I think, absolutely safe, absolutely secure and absolutely in command. Partly because some of the irritants have gone out of the cabinet, partly because you can't go on having this nonsense indefinitely. If he knows, and I'm sure he does, the strength of feeling in the constituencies. I've been in Derbyshire for the last 3 days about the way some people have undermined our prospects in the local elections. He will understand, as with the rebels, that the party won't stand it for very much longer. Right. This can't go on. This can't go on. And I think, therefore, that he'll be very secure by the end of next week.
Justine Greening, I mean, whatever your party says publicly, you must be relieved. You really want Gordon Brown to continue and fight the next election whenever it is. You want him to be the leader of the Labour Party, not, for example, Alan Johnson.
Of course I do.
We want to have a general election as soon as we can. We think the worst thing the country needs at the moment is a weak and divided government, which is what we've got and just been talking about.
But you want to face Gordon Brown, is what I'm suggesting. He's your preferred leader for the Labour Party.
It does not matter to us who we face. Our biggest priority we have is to give the British people what they want, which is their own choice. It's up to them to decide who they should have running this country. All the indications are that they want a change, they want to re-elect different MPs, they feel like Parliament needs a fresh start, and they want the country to have a fresh government. We have to have a general election, and actually to us it doesn't matter who's running the Labour Party. The most important thing is our democracy. Labour is demeaning it at the moment because it's so obvious that people want their say and they are being prevented from having it.
Charles Kennedy, I just wondered, when you were leader of the Lib Dems, you faced the moment where you had to think, should I stay or should I go? Is the party moving? I mean, do you have some sympathy for Gordon Brown in this? Is he doing the right thing? And what sort of things go through your mind as a party leader when you see the party, or parts of it at least, moving away from you?
Well, I think what you've got to recognise, there's been talk over the last few days about the rule books, about numbers. Do you need X number of Labour MPs to trigger some kind of leadership election, or do you need a special conference, whatever. Actually, when you get to this kind of stage, I think what becomes clear to you, if you're sitting in that position, is it's not just about arithmetic, it's not just about the conventions, because you can only lead if the broader sense of goodwill is there. If that evaporates for whatever set of circumstances, rightly, wrongly, fairly or unfairly, it renders you effectively redundant in a political
because leadership
capacity.
Demands followership. You have to have people
Indeed.
prepared to...
And it requires people to go with you even when they think, I think he's wrong on that.
But Gordon Brown's got that. That's the
well,
point.
has he? I mean, I think he's just about secured base camp, the cabinet. Now, the whole thing could have floundered in the last 48 hours if that hadn't happened. But look at what is now staring him in the face. I tend to agree with Michael Crick. I mean, I think the Parliamentary Labour Party, it won't be a further meltdown on Monday night. But he's now got by-elections outstanding. This is going to be a drip, drip, drip effect.
Well, Lord Hattersley, I mean, did I understand it correctly that you're talking about new policies, more bold policies in tomorrow's newspapers? If so, what do you think you want for your party?
What I want, and it's the reason I want Gordon Brown to go on being leader, because I think he can do that better than anybody else, is for the Labour Party to reaffirm its moral position, its ideological position, what we stand for, what we believe in. I think over the last 10 years, much more under Tony Blair's leadership than under Gordon Brown's, we've been too managerial. We haven't made very clear that we have an ideal about a new sort of society, and that Gordon Brown is the best man to move towards that during the next year. I think he'll do that now.
But he's had 18 months to do it, hasn't he? He's had 18 months to do it. If you don't get it right in 18 months, why should you think he'd get it right in the next year?
Because I say that he's more secure in a strange and paradoxical way than he has been. Many of the irritants have gone. He's not going to have Hazel Blair's nipping at his heels for the next year. He's not going to have the pressures from people in the cabinet who don't share his views of the new society. He'll be able to do it with more freedom, and he'll be able to do it in the knowledge that the party and most of the parliamentary party want him to do it.
Justin Greening, whatever your party says, he can stay, of course, till next May or June or whatever. There is actually nothing you can do. There is no mechanism. You can criticise, but he can go on and he can hope for the economic upturn. He can hope for the boldness that Roy Hattersley's talking about, and it might work for him.
I am sure that Gordon Brown will do anything apart from have to leave Downing Street, and I think it's a real disgrace. I just think we spend so much time talking about why people have switched off politics and they're not voting. People are saying right now they're engaged. They want to have their say about what they think, not what Lord Hattersley or anyone else, but what they think is best for our country. They have to be given that choice. If we are not going to give people that choice, they will continue to be switched off, and they will turn around and look at our democracy and wonder what it's there for, because it is time to let them have their say. I'm fed up, I think, like many people, of listening to people in the Labour Party talking about what their agenda is, and they never come to the rest of the people and ask them whether it's what they want. That's what they have to do. If they've got any respect for our democracy, they have to call a general election.
Do you think he is actually secure now? Charles Kennedy.
I think it's very difficult, really, looking at this, to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I mean, the big mistake with Gordon Brown, when the history books are written, is he blinked over calling that general election. What was the excuse at the time? It's nothing to do with the polls. It's nothing to do with the uncertainty of the outcome. It's the fact that I need a bit more time to spell out my vision. That was the word that kept being used. Now, here's Roy Hattersley talking tonight about we need to flesh out this, we need to be bold in the following directions. Well, he's had all that time, and it's not been coming forward. And I don't think that you can reclaim that lost ground.
Let me put it to Lord Hattersley. Briefly, Lord Hattersley.
Well, what he's had is an economic crisis, which was not of his making, it was of bankers' making, and he's led the world in getting that crisis solved and putting the pieces together again. I think what's going to happen over the next year, which is why the Tory party are desperate for an election now, is Gordon Brown going to be vindicated in his economic policy. The recession is going to come to an end, and he's going to lead us out of it, lead the world out of it. That's why the Tory party, a party which three elections ago had a leader who described three of his own cabinet as bastards who we couldn't get on with. I mean, the Tory party is not in a strong position to talk about cabinet unity.
Thank you all very much.